Hello 3-4S and welcome to our first homework revision video. These videos are made that we can revise the work we did the last week and also look at what we'll be doing this week in some of our subjects. I have made these videos so you can watch it as many times as you need to. You can stop and pause. You can watch it over and over again so you get a good idea of what I'm saying. You can also come to school and ask questions about the video, and you can watch it again at school. And I've also made these so to help us practice. Practice makes perfect. The first part of our videos we're looking into our history and our colonisation of Australia. And we've already learned about how the Aboriginal people had many of the little tribes and countries of their own. Approximately 500 of them. We have learned different tribes and countries of their own where they spoke thousands of languages. We also learned that they moved around, and instead of settling, they liked to move around from place to place, and they also did something called backburning, which would burn things down so it can regrow. And what we learned that was different from the colonisation is when they came into Sydney Cove, they stayed there, and their colony soon got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why they had problems with the Indigenous. Moving on. During this time, in the 17th and 18th centuries, seagoing European countries were expanding their power and wealth through the creation of these colonies. This process enabled them to create new markets and provide resources for their home countries. So that's why they made these colonies, so they could take natural resources back and bring convicts to their new countries to get them out of their home countries. What we have just learned this week in grammar is verbs. Remember, a verb is a word that shows actions, states of being or having. Being verbs include am, is, are, was, and were, while having verbs include has, had, and have. Some examples. Bree danced across the room at the disco. That shows an action verb. She was dancing. She danced across the room. That's what she was doing. A being verb, you are all sitting in your chairs, is that's what you're doing. You're still doing it, but it's a being verb. Those are words. Elliot has a red bag. It's a having verb. Those words has, have, and having. Moving on to what we did in science. And we were looking at country, city, and urban living. And we looked at some where people live and why they live there. So we looked at maybe something like the country, open spaces, big farmhouses, and people might live there because they run a farm, they run cattle. We looked at suburban living, where you might live, with big houses on big blocks, near shops and schools. And we also looked at city living, with maybe small apartments and busy roads and lights with streets and apartments that go up into the air. And they're the differences of city, urban, and country living. We also, in science, looked at signs and how we know what the sign means and their purpose. And we looked at all different kinds of signs and what they mean. And remember, you created your own. And these are ways to let the people know what's happening in the area or what a purpose of something is. Moving on to our English. Now we're about to have our assessment now. So this is really starting to get into revision. And you should already know this. How is an exposition written? Think of it. How do you think one is written? What is the first thing you write on your page? The first thing will be the title, the name of the paper, what it is about. The second part, have a think. Second part is our introduction. It is your point of view and a statement about both arguments. The next part is where your arguments are. You need 3 arguments with reasons and examples. Now this is where it's important to be very descriptive and very detailed about your arguments, because you've got to persuade the reader to come onto your side. And we end with a conclusion, summing up your arguments and your point of view. That's where you're almost like doing the introduction again. You're repeating yourself. You're saying, that is why I think what you think. Hopefully, with our sentences and our paragraphs, we're really starting to use long, complex sentences. I have 2 sentences here, a blue one and a red one, and they both say the same thing, but they are different. Our class has posters. Well, yes, we do. On the walls of our classroom, we have multicolored posters which help us to learn all the grammatical features we need to know for this school year. Those 2 sentences say the same thing. They both say that we have posters in our classroom, but the red one is so much more detailed, so much more descriptive, and so much more complex, and that's what we need to be trying to do in our writing now, to be more detailed and persuasive. You need to look at every little bit of detail in your writing and how can I make it better. When we are looking at our persuasive writing now, we're going to be doing another one of these this week before our assessment to make sure we really know what needs to be in our persuasive writing. We need a title about our topic, introduction where you have a statement about both arguments. So say our title was cats versus dogs. A statement about both arguments might be, some people like dogs as a pet, full stop. However, some people prefer to have cats as pets, full stop. Then you get to your opinion. That's where you write something like, I believe dogs are better pets for the following reasons. Remember, you don't put your reasons here. Here are your reasons, your 3 arguments. That's where they go, not up here. You just say, I believe that dogs or cats are better for the following arguments. Then we come to our arguments, and we need at least 3 good, detailed arguments. And remember, this is where we're hopefully using long, complex sentences that are detailed and descriptive. So you need 1, 2, 3 arguments, and you're trying to persuade me. I'm going to be reading it, and you've got to persuade me to come over to your side. Then we get to our conclusion. There are 2 parts to our conclusion, our summing up of our arguments and our opinion sentence again. Our summing up is where you just repeat very quickly your 3 arguments. Very quickly, just to repeat them again in one sentence. And our opinion again, is that where we almost repeat what your first opinion part was. You go back and say, that is why, for the following reasons I have said, I believe dogs are a much better pet to have than cats. Full stop. So you're repeating yourself. I said we're going to practice this again, but this is what I'll be expecting in our assessment. Moving on to this week, and what we're going to be doing this week, week number 6, in class. In Hizzy, we're going to be looking at Captain James Cook and how he made that first voyage to Australia. In grammar, we're going to be looking at adjectives and how we use adjectives to help bring meaning, more meaning to our nouns and proper nouns. In science, we'll be looking at building materials and design and how materials that we use to build houses have changed over time, and the design of houses have changed over time. Maths, we'll be going into measurement, looking at millimetres, centimetres, metres and kilometres, and how to change from each one. And in English, we're just doing our revision again. Some more exposition writing for our assessment that we might do next week. So here's your chance. Thank you very much if you've made it this far. Here's your chance for some dojo points for our auction at the end of the week. And if you can come to me with the correct answer to this question, you might earn yourself a dojo point. And our question is, which row in the class does Bo sit in? Which row in the class does Bo sit in? Is it A, the front row, B, the middle row, or C, the back row? If you can come to me with the correct answer to that question, you might earn yourself a dojo point. Thank you very much 3-4S for listening, and hopefully you can answer some questions about this video.